It's now time to hear from Kiran sir. Kiran has been Karnataka topper, rank 53, but beyond all that, already serving as a civil servant. So Civil Service Day is more special. Last attempt had no idea, but had a lot of dream and vision and focus, and that's made the achievement possible. No better time to listen from a civil servant himself and an IAS officer who is just to serve the country. Kiran sir on stage.
ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. First of all, good afternoon everyone. Very happy National Civil Services Day to everyone, first and foremost. Dignitaries on the dais, my beloved Srinivas sir of the dais, all my fellow mates, aspirants, my fellow achievers, friends Sandeep and Manoj. They've spoken exceptionally well, and I think I'll try my bit. Of course, not like Manoj. See, you might be wondering, I'll tell you, Manoj energy is because of his innate energy that is there. He is a third attempt al clear madadanta vyakti, so it is third attempt energy. Sandeep and me are sixth attempt energy. By the time sixth attempt barashage, you know how it is. So that's the difference. Anyways, he's very passionate, very energetic, very enthusiastic. I met him, the first time I saw him was last year in Karnataka Bhavan. We were roommates actually. So that is where we met. Two extreme energy levels. He's always on the toes, he's always energetic, always enthusiastic. And salpa mild version, very mild. So it was a nice thing. I spent about 10 days. We spent about 10 days there. We exchanged a lot of thoughts, and I think I learned a lot from him also. Sandeep, he's been my very dear friend. A lot of commonalities between him and me. We prepared for mains this year together, and both of us, it was our last attempt in the civil services, so we gave our everything. We had a lot of things in common. One of the things, especially with respect to interview, I think we had certain things that we wanted to do and execute, and I think we did that. And one of the outcomes also showed. He scored 185 in the interview. I got 195. So that actually served well, whatever we thought we would do in interview, apart from the rest. And fortunately, we all ended up in that holy PDF on March 6th, 2:30. So, and also it's a great privilege to be here at India for IAS. And I would say it's a very good mixture. We have the legacy of so many civil servants, Srikantaiah sir, CS Kedar sir. These are the civil servants from the past. Then it's Manoj, me, and Sandeep here, the civil servants of the present, and so many aspirants here, so civil servants of the future also. So a very good mixture of all the three, past, present, and the future on this wonderful occasion. So I would say my contribution to this, most of the things have been covered, with respect to preparation. I'll just give a brief history of my journey. So I started preparing in 2020 March, just a few days before the COVID lockdown. I graduated in 2018. So it took me 6 continuous efforts. Year on year, I've just pursued. For the first 2 attempts, I did not get any kind of success in prelims. So it was only in 2022, in my 3rd attempt, that I got my first break there. But ultimately, even then, it was I could not clear the mains. Thereafter, I could not clear the prelims once again in the 4th attempt. Then I was just left with 2 attempts. In the meantime, I had got the Public Works Department job as an assistant engineer. So I completed 3 years there. So the last 3 attempts were basically with job. The first 3 were as a full-time aspirant. So my worldview changed after getting a job. As an aspirant, I was an engineer by the day, an aspirant by the night. So this was my journey. The 5th and 6th attempt, I think those were the most successful attempts. And one of the distinguishing factors is also that I got married in my 5th attempt. So that also makes my journey different. So UPSC exam is already difficult. I have made it more difficult. One, by doing it with a job. Second, by having family responsibilities. But I think I was blessed with a lot of things, a lot of good family, a very supportive wife, parents, everyone, my friends. So ultimately, I reached till the interview in the 5th attempt, but could not make it. That is when I had an interaction with Srinivas sir. And I'm very glad that I took up that call of making it, writing my 6th and final attempt. Even when there were just 20, 25 odd days, I think he gave those, with his words, he pushed me to give that final attempt. And I'm very glad, because if I had not, I think I would have not enjoyed what I'm enjoying right now. So I think very grateful to sir, very grateful to the institute. With respect to failures, this exam, he's talked about the process, etc., but I'll talk about the failures. The failures part is I think initially it feels very difficult. Later on, I think year after failures, you become numb to it. And later years, I felt failures are not like, they're not just like our mistakes. That is one part, but it's also a feedback system that I had prepared something, I had made a strategy, I executed it, and it did not deliver. So I failed short in something. So it's like I started taking failures as a feedback mechanism. So I have failed and succeeded in all the 3 stages of this exam. So it's just a reflection of what were my mistakes at each stage and what all should I do next to fill that gap. And the moment you start making that shift of taking failures in a more very sensitive, as a very, you feel like the world is ended and all the eyes in the world are on you. It feels like that, but it's not. The world still keeps moving. If you do not make the changes, if you do not try to get up and rewrite again, someone else will come. This exam is very brutal. The numbers speak for themselves. 10-12 lakh people apply for this exam. Then 5.5 to 6 lakh people actually on the day of the prelims come and write the prelims. Thereafter, 14,000 people write the mains. Then 2,700 odd people go and attend the interview. And once we get the interview call, we feel that we are almost there. It's just a matter of time that I'm clearing this exam. But that's not the thing. Again, there's just 950 to 1,000 people who actually make into the list, and in that, just about 180 make it to the IAS, and then thereafter the various other prestigious services, totaling up to 22 services. So as you can see, the competition, the success rate is very less. You are bound more to fail in this exam. The day you take up this exam, it is more certain that you will fail in the exam rather than clear. That is the most certain. Just like death is the most certain thing on this life. Once you're born, once you take this exam, you are going to fail at some point. So come out of that mindset that I'll fail. I met a aspirant yesterday that he prepared for 2 years continuously and is not given his first attempt. So when I asked him, he said, I have that fear of failure. I said, it's not a guarantee that even after 5 years of preparation, if you, after then you will give your first attempt, it's not a guarantee that you will clear your prelims on the first attempt itself. So failure is certain more than success. But until and unless you step in there, you fail, you feel dejected, demotivated, you're humiliated, you go through all of these emotions, and then God says, you're ready for this now. Then He gives you. So I feel that hardly without any setbacks, failures, humiliation, there's no success. And if you get success like that, I don't call it success. I call it just purely luck. But I also say that without purely out of luck, no one has cleared this exam. It is only after years of perseverance, then you fail. There are years of when you feel that the results are not matching your expectations, when you feel that all these efforts are not translating into results, and nothing is working out, and then somehow, but I always believe that God will be taking an account of all this efforts. All the efforts will, one day probably, all the efforts will compound, and when He gives, He'll make sure that He prepares you, and then He gives you so much that you will not able to believe. Because when yes, जब भगवान देता है चप्पड़ फाड़ के देता है. So we'll not be ready when He gives, but He makes sure that you are ready when it actually happens. So those are few things I wanted to say. Apart from that, I think if I have to just sum it up, I would say victory is patience in disguise. It is just patience in disguise. It's not that one directly jumps into the war field and he becomes victorious. You have to wait for years, and then ultimately time and the word rewards you. And also, if I have to just say, I have to talk about two things. One is consistency. And also, I was discussing with sir, this exam is not about hard work. This exam is not just about intelligence. It is not about intelligence. It is not about some intellectual capacity. If that was the case, all the 958 would be from IITs, IIMs, AIMS, etc. This exam rewards endurance, resilience, perseverance, dedication, and all this requires consistency. And I come from a college called as GIT. He comes from AIT, not IIT. But we still made it to the top 100 of the list, and number 1 and number 2 the state. So what is the point I want to drive home is that all your background, it might be humble background, it might be rural background, Kannada medium background, it does not really matter. Yes, you might face difficulties that an average aspirant is not facing. Yes, you will face it. But that should not be an excuse for you to not take up this exam. This exam is a greatest leveler. It brings people from different echelons of society and balances them and puts on the same platform. And that is when I feel that is the power of this examination. So don't give excuses that I have, as even Manoj said, like Kannada medium in the Bandidini, it is difficult for me. And I see so much complaints about this. Yes, I can understand, I can empathize with you, yes. But does it help you anyway? No. Ultimately, you have to figure out a way. So you have to keep, it's an opportunity. Take it as an opportunity to better yourself, equip yourself with qualities that are needed for this exam, then outdo even the people from even the most privileged background. And with respect to privilege, I feel I have to remember my father here. He said, because I fairly came from a above middle class family. With respect to education, I had decent education. At least I was not someone who had to manage or take burden of the family and then I had to study. No, nothing like that. I had good, decent education. Of course, not from very prestigious or elite institutions, but yes. So he said, "You are privileged." Back in the day, we had to travel so much. We had no hardly any uniforms, no transportation, etc. And still, I managed to reach here. So whatever you are getting is a privilege. And if that privilege is not for you to enjoy, it is not for you to enjoy. You are using those privileges to contribute back to the society that has given you so much. And for that is the mindset, that is the initial seeds of hope, seeds of dream that he gave me. And I'm very grateful for such dreams being impregnated in my brain. And ultimately, I reached here. Even now, when I cleared this exam, he said, clearing this exam is, yes, okay, you've done this well, but the real test begins now. Once you clear this exam, that is when the real test begins. It's not the perks, the powers, the privileges that come with this service. It is the responsibility. You should see it as responsibility. That power is bestowed on you, not for you to enjoy or make merry out of it, but it is a clear-cut responsibility bestowed by destiny, by God, by forefathers, all the blessings, for you to contribute to the society. We learn a concept called as Antyodaya and Sarvodaya. Antyodaya is the last man standing in the society. So he says it's an opportunity for you to contribute and uplift the last man standing in the society, and then it will lead to Sarvodaya. So I'm very grateful to have such principles, ethics being imbibed. You can learn a lot from your parents, their own struggles, your village, your native. You don't have to look for motivation from some idols. The motivation is around you. The motivation, you go to your village, you go to your native, you see so many struggles. Then you will find that all my struggles are actually nothing. And civil services gives you that platform to actually alleviate people's problems, their struggles, and that should be the motivation. And ultimately, that motivation might come and you might say, like, 1 year you might be motivated to take this exam. The moment you fail in the first prelims or second prelims, that motivation is gone. Motivation is transient. Now, what else will take you further then? That is where I feel, that is where consistency, discipline, and routine comes in. See, getting motivated is very easy. Yado on the cinema nodi, for example, Balash Jana Prithvi cinema nodi, they get inspired and said, I'll also become IAS. Yes, it's a good way. Yes, it's a good way of motivating people. Yes, you take this. But that motivation is very ephemeral. It is transient. It will fade out in a year. Because bala khushi iddaga, when everything is going smooth, and then dreaming is easy. When everything is crumbling, everything that you've planned is failing, and then still looking at the same dream again, still wanting to achieve that goal, that takes a lot of dedication. It takes a lot of sacrifice. It takes a lot of consistency. And consistency is ultimately that will take you and make you successful in this examination. It is not intelligence, it is not plain hard work, it is smart work, it is dedication, sticking to the routine, showing up in that library, in those 4 walls again and again, even when no one is watching. And I think UPSC rewards those who are enduring even during failure. And I think those failures in UPSC ultimately makes you a better version. I think after the second failure in prelims, I was a better person in the third, but ultimately not still good enough. And then it took me another means to get back to a more better version. And till last year, okay, I was good enough to reach the interview, but not actually be into the final list. And even as Manoj accepted that clarity of thought, he straight away said, I was not good enough on that year. People were better than me. So that clear-cut awareness of one's own preparation, a clear-cut diagnosis of, yes, my preparation is not up to the mark. Whatever I had planned is actually not good enough. Once you have that clear diagnosis, that clarity of mind, that honesty to accept your failures, accept your mistakes, only then you will make progress. Without accepting mistakes, how will you actually make the course correction? So don't be in that bubble that I know better, I am doing the best, only I am, whatever I'm doing is the right way. You can learn from so many peers, from non-UPSC people as well. I would send my essays to one of my friend, a doctor, who's completely not associated with UPSC, but the kind of inputs he gave actually changed the way I look at my essay. Ultimately, that essay has to be seen and understood by a common person. If that was just an extension of GS, UPSC would have called it as GS5 or GS something. But they chose to say it essay because ultimately the creativity it gives is completely different. And that is the point I want to drive home is you can learn from anyone here. So whoever, all your competitors, yes, they are competitors, but look and observe what they are doing. If there is something you can learn from them, always pick it up. Don't be under that bubble or that egoistic mindset that I am better. That feeling will crumble. And even if you're the most egoistic person, this exam will break you. It will make you humblest of the person. One day that will come. And I think that this ಈ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದೊಂದು ಮಾಡಿ ಕಳಿಸುತ್ತದೆ ಮನೆಗೆ. You will be broken. You will be the most humblest person. So with that, I would just say one more thing. Without commitment, you cannot start. And without consistency, you cannot finish. So always remember that having motivation is simple. You jump into this competition, you enjoy for an year or two reading those books. And thereafter, if you're not progressing, it is of no worth. It is ultimately consistency that will take you home. It will take you to your goal. With that, thank you so much for listening to me patiently. It's been a wonderful feeling even for me. It's also a moment of self-reflection for me because I've been through this process as an aspirant for years, and finally to be on the other side feels different. But as even Sandeep said, even if you're able to avoid half of our mistakes, you are good to go. If you avoid most of the mistakes that me and Sandeep have done, I think you can crack it like Manoj did in his third attempt. So if you avoid his mistakes, you will crack it in the first or second attempt. So ultimately, this talks is not about boosting or promotion or anything. It is for you to learn from our journeys. Because initial years, we tend to make a lot of mistakes. And that is where, because of guidance, misguidance, over-guidance, all of that, it tends to happen. But the initial few years, I feel this exam is the foundation. Without foundation, I think that is not going to clear. And I will also take this moment to also shed some light on Plan B. Manoj also highlighted it and said, initial years, don't think about Plan B. The first 2 years, 3 years, completely 100% dedicate yourself, tapasyane, it is penance, and give your entire 100% for this exam, 100%. It cannot be 99%. If it is 99%, make it 0 and leave this preparation, go away. But else, put 100%. Because without 100% of dedication, I don't think so this exam is you will able to clear. So either 0 or 100. But let's say even after that, if the results are not showing up, you're not successful in the first 2 years, I feel that is the time you have to start looking for Plan B. And that Plan B can be anything. It can be private or public or other state PCS exams, anything. But please make sure that you take up a Plan B. Without Plan B, this exam is going to be very cruel. It will rupture your life and make, yes, of course, the preparation that you've done here will take you somewhere, give that confidence. But ultimately, you have to be realistic. You have so much burden. Not everyone comes from a very privileged background. We come from we are middle class families, so we have a lot of responsibilities. You have to also look at our parents who are on the verge of retirement, various health issues. It cannot be that you are only looking at your dream in isolation and think, I'm doing this for family, that is why I'm dedicating. No. For them, even they are dependent on you. So if after 2 to 3 years, if you're not successful, please seriously look for plan B. And it's not that directly one becomes an IAS or IPS. You have to become all the lower rungs, and then when you're good to go. And also I feel my experience in public works department has actually helped me a lot in facing interview. It might be awareness of the governance systems, even in my time management, everything. Because as a full-time aspirant, I had the full day. But as a aspirant and as a state government employee, I had just 5 to 6 hours of per day. So to utilize that effectively, it needed a lot of structure. It needed a lot of planning. And ultimately, everyone has 24 hours. If with, let's say, half of the day, if I'm able to do it and clear this, you are much more privileged to actually have the entire day. So please utilize whatever time that is there, completely dedicate to this exam. Don't have any regrets. By the time I was finishing with the 6th attempt, my mains, I had absolutely zero regrets. Because I did an extensive answer writing. I did answer writing of about 950 plus answers. So the end of the day, I was not, after I finished my mains, I had absolutely zero regrets. I could have failed, I could have cleared, that is secondary. But there was not a day of regret that I could have done this better. I could have done this, I should have covered this. I did not leave any time because I had put 3 months of loss of pay and went to Delhi and prepare. So for me, I already knew the value of time. I knew the value of money. Then, so I had absolutely no other reason to, lessen my effort. I knew 100% or nothing. So I gave my everything. In those 3 months at least, I was completely a different person. So ultimately, all those hard work will come in and give you result. There's a popular saying, there are decades when nothing happens, and there are weeks or days when decades happen. So that is very true for me, because for years nothing happened. For 5.5, 6 years, nothing, absolutely nothing. Even a stone did not move. But I think in those 2.5 months of mains and some preparation during interview, that changed everything. Those weeks changed and gave me results that were worth of decades. So with that, I will conclude my speech. Thank you so much. Thank you, Srinivas sir. Thank you for the entire faculty and team at India for IAS. Also, thank you to Kedar sir, and also wishing my fellow mates also a happy Civil Services Day. With that, I'll conclude my speech. Thank you so much. Jai Hind, Jai Karnataka.
Thank you so much, Kiran sir. That's a lot of practicality and far-fetching words that has come across. The entire journey, the ups, the downs, how to face each one of them from a larger perspective of life. That's what Kiran has very nicely put forward across to all of you.